I don't even know how to start this video. I'm just being honest. I'm sat here just kind of like... But either way, guys, I'm sure you've heard already, we need to talk about this. We absolutely need to, and this is something I need to stress. These are rumors from sources of a major trade from the Hollywood Reporter. We're going to get into that aspect of it in terms of the reliability. Do I think this could be plausible? But we might be facing no Wonder Woman, no Henry Cavill Superman. But Boba, how does that work? Because he came back in Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson got him back in. Well, that's a whole thing. And just overall, the equivalent of a tectonic plate is shifting in the DC universe. So, what I'm going to do in this video, before I lose my voice already, is drink a lot of coffee, don't get me wrong, but we are going to read out this article. I think it's important for me to do that, break it down as we go along, and then just try and make sense of it, and then ultimately give my thoughts on this. Let's get into this. My God. If you haven't heard about this, strap yourselves in. So the Hollywood Reporter article headline is Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 not moving forward as DC movies hit turning point. Call it DC Rebirth or DC Genesis, maybe call it Identity Crisis or Flashpoint. These titles of the past DC Comics event series aptly describe the state of Warner Brothers DC movies, which are on the cusp of a new era, but not before a potentially messy transition period. A cleaning of the slate is common when a new executive team is put to run a studio or division, but there is likely little precedent for the amount of Clorox James Gunn and Peter Safran could spray as they prepare to launch DC Studios and guide superhero movies for the next decade and beyond. So the duo in recent days flew back to Los Angeles from the snowy city of Aspen, Colorado, where they were huddled in deep planning. And now, like holy figures coming down from the mountaintop, have sets of commandments or a DC Bible in hand, or at least a working blueprint. Long story short, we already basically know about this. They had a mandate from David Zaslav: make your plans, make your 8 to 10 year pitch, and then pitch it to me soon. And that might actually be happening sooner than what we think. And now it's being reported that they're now kind of coming out of the woodwork, and little things are already starting to be known about this plan. The article goes on to say Gunn and Safran are expected to meet next week with David Zaslav, the Warner Brothers Discovery CEO, who is radically reshaping the media company and who hired the duo in October to lead a newly launched film and TV division. The pair will unveil to Zaslav a plan that is expected to lay out their vision, although much of their plan, which insiders paint as still a work in progress and one that has yet to be approved, is being kept deep in the Batcave, which makes sense. You know, as James Gunn keeps saying, like, you know, nobody else really knows other than him and Peter Safran what is going to be pitched to David Zaslav. But they go on to say details of several possible paths forward are trickling out, and at least one path not being taken has also been revealed. Now, I wonder if that has something, or should I say the plan trickling out already could be something to do with them coming down from the mountaintop, if they really are pitching to David Zaslav like next week. And what this article goes on to say about meeting with certain people, maybe certain details have got out like that. Multiple sources tell the Hollywood Reporter that Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 is not moving forward and is considered dead in its current incarnation. I did want to emphasize in its current incarnation. So Wonder Woman 3, dead. Right now, in its current incarnation. Now, why do I find this fascinating? Well, that is because Gal Gadot on Twitter only a couple of days ago, and this would be bad timing if she didn't already know anything about this, but she said, a few years ago it was announced that I was going to play Wonder Woman. I've been so grateful for the opportunity to play such an incredible, iconic character, and more than anything, I'm grateful for you, the fans. Can't wait to share her next chapter with you. Now, maybe you could argue she wasn't in the know and this article wasn't going to be coming out, or she didn't know that Patty Jenkins' script is dead, the film is dead, or maybe she did know and she's still saying there's another chapter in the DC universe, just not the movie that Patty Jenkins cooked up that is known as Wonder Woman 3. It could be quite the reboot, if you will, just with Gal Gadot still playing the character. So I do want you to bookmark that in your brains in terms of, you know, it's not moving forward and is considered dead in its current incarnation. The article goes on to say that sources say that Jenkins recently submitted her treatment, co-written with Jeff Johns, and that Gunn and Safran, as well as Warner Brothers Pictures co-chairs and co-CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, broke the news to the filmmaker, telling her the project as it stood, did not fit in with the new, but still unfolding, plans. Jenkins directed and co-wrote the previous 2 movies starring Gal Gadot and released in 2017 and 2020. No decision has been made about next steps. So yeah, one last time, what Patty Jenkins cooked up with Jeff Johns for the, what they pitched. Okay, here's Wonder Woman 3. They probably thought, okay, we're gonna make it. It still needed to be properly approved, but oh no, it's dead in its current incarnation, and it doesn't really fit in with the new DCU, which, this does sound plausible in certain ways. Don't forget that James Gunn and Peter Safran are the new dudes. They are the Feiges of the DC Studios world now. So they can be like, okay, we see what you're doing. We're not saying Gal Gadot won't be Wonder Woman. It's just what your vision was for this movie and what you've cooked up. It doesn't fit the vision. And you have to, at least with so many details unknown, give them some leeway in that these movies, like even The Flash, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Aquaman, and we've got stuff to say about Aquaman in this article, and other movies, they are in the old regime. I don't know how they're going to rectify whatever happens in universe, unless you want to think it's Flashpoint, but again, that script was written and shot before James Gunn has even come in. But my point is, I don't know what they're going to do to kind of like establish this new DCU, because clearly here they don't want to kickstart a new movie, for example Wonder Woman 3, because clearly it doesn't fit whatever they're going to do in that future roadmap of, or at least the vision, the tone, I don't know, the ideas in the story for their new DC universe for the next 8 to 10 year plan that they're cooking up. Now the article goes on to say that, and while costs are not a factor, insiders say that DC Studios will not have any overburdensome financial restrictions. The studio could end up saving tens of millions of dollars by not making a third installment. Gadot, according to sources, was on track for a $20 million payday for Wonder Woman 3, while Jenkins would have received 12 mil. Can you imagine making a movie? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's like, yeah, 12 mil, like that's freaking insane to me. Those figures don't include any possible back-end bonuses. Warner's had no comment. Interesting. It is unclear how any future Wonder Woman movie and Gadot's portrayal of the hero would fit into the new DC plan. In a bit of a head-scratching timing, Gadot, this is what we were on about, tweeted out of the blue a thank you to fans on Tuesday, saying she was grateful, adding, "Can't wait to share her next chapter with you." It was unclear whether or not the actress knew the project was being toe-tagged. But this is where things get even more interesting, arguably. So the Hollywood Reporter go on to say the rest of the DC slate remains in flux, or at least being kept deep in the pocket of Gunn's own utility belt, but there are several rumors and possible scenarios to consider ahead of next week's meeting. The first, which builds on the shuttering of Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3, is the closing curtain of the Snyderverse and the heroes cast by filmmaker Zack Snyder for his Justice League. This one sees the shutting down of Man of Steel 2 with a returning Henry Cavill and having no more Aquaman, fronted by Jason Momoa. These characters are to cameo in Flash, the highly anticipated time travel adventure movie that is due to release June 16th. Cavill shot his part of the cameo in September, but sources say there is a debate inside the studio as whether or not to keep the cameo, and if its inclusion promises something that the studio would have no plans on delivering. A Warner's insider cautions that no plans have been finalized and that the Flash remains an unlocked picture. The Cavill situation is a more than a little thorny, as the actor made a cameo in Black Adam, the DC-centric movie released in October. The Monday after the movie opened, and this is the thing, Cavill posted a video on Instagram where he announced, "I wanted to make it official, I am back as Superman." And at that time, he was not incorrect. Warner Brothers was indeed developing a sequel for 2013's Man of Steel and actively meeting with writers. We've broken these reports down previously. This was apparently happening. The Hollywood Reporter is emphasizing and reiterating this again. So that could very well have been true. It did seem true. They were actively very early development, but looking for writers. And it turns out that the Andy Muschietti thing could have been true as well. So Andy Muschietti, who directed Flash, even expressed interest in sitting behind the camera for something that would have brought a tone similar to the hopeful and heroic colors of the 1978 movie directed by Richard Donner, considered a benchmark in comic book movies. In fact, the current leadership team at Warner Bros. Pictures, Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, this one's interesting as well, did desire one more go-around of the Snyderverse heroes, possibly even having another Justice League movie with those actors. But that was before Gunn and Safran began formulating their new and still in flux and still in flux plans. So, the next part's on about Black Adam. We'll get into that. This is very, very interesting. Now, I know some people are gonna be like, Boba, these are just rumors. Doesn't mean shit. You could be right. But when, my opinion is, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not endorsing major trades in saying they're always right. Whenever they have a rumor source that they can't, you know, that's the thing about sources. They can't be like, oh, Jimmy from Warner Brothers told me, because then Jimmy would be exposed, right? But when they publish rumors like this, you kind of have to have quite a bit of balls to like make a whole article about this for it to be completely founded on nothing. Not even a 5 to 10% modicum of truth to what you're putting out there. And even then, they are saying, you know, they are hearing and whatnot. But what I will say is that it does still sound plausible to me. All that I'm reading here isn't a stretch of the imagination, as unfortunate as some of it sounds. Because obviously for me, I don't know about you, I understand that this new DC universe from Peter Safran and James Gunn would be largely kind of rebooted in a way, not a flat-out reboot, because you would have had Henry Cavill still carrying on, likely Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, but for all we know, continuity could be quite different. Future movies, directions, visions, tones, quite different. That's what they were even saying about Superman. Henry Cavill was excited about being a more hopeful, optimistic Superman. So do you see what I mean? Things were going to be different, even if with some of the same actors. But now with Henry Cavill, things might have changed. And the reason why this sounds plausible to me as well is because Superman, Henry Cavill appearing in Black Adam, had absolutely nothing to do with James Gunn and Peter Safran. They were like, this is where like streams are crossing at the same time. And what's also interesting is Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi and mainly Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson really fought tooth and nail to get Henry Cavill in Black Adam. Like they kept, you've heard it from his mouth as well. They kept saying no, 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 and then eventually it happened. So they signed him to appear in that movie. But the word on the street was, and this is the interesting thing we need to take into account, is that Henry Cavill didn't sign, despite saying I'm back as Superman. This is the thing that really stings. It's very likely he wasn't signed on for multiple movies or another movie after that. It looked like they were getting things in the works, and he was told behind the scenes, this is the thing that sucks, that things are being developed for a Man of Steel 2. Clearly they were trying to find writers. Clearly this was maybe starting to happen. So he felt probably confident that, yeah, you know, it actually feels like I might be back, right? Especially as appeared in Black Adam. But again, going back to the crossing streams thing, this is when Peter Safran and James Gunn were fully kind of coming in with their new mandate to carve out the future of their DC universe. And now there's a point of where they might not, and who knows, they might not want to do it because they might want to completely recast Batman for the DC universe continuity, leaving the Reeves thing untouched, and we'll talk about the Batman a little bit later, but also recast Superman, just kind of give it a new stab with the DC universe side of things, the DC continuity canon of the movie universe. And yeah, it's just weird to consider because Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi probably were like, yeah, Henry, you know, like, we allowed Dwayne Johnson to convince WBD that you should be in Black Adam. We're willing to give Snyderverse characters another go, potentially. So we're going to try and look into a very early development for Man of Steel 2, look for writers. But then Peter Safran and James Gunn come in with their new visions. So it sounds, again, this is hard to really dissect down to the very freaking body matter of all of what makes this up. There was even a Superman cameo filmed for The Flash and Aquaman, but now with the plans being drawn up, because that's what Peter Safran and James Gunn have been doing this whole time, they are debating on whether to keep that in or cut it out, because if they keep it in, and they don't really have a full intention on going ham with Man of Steel 2, or even keeping Henry Cavill's freaking Superman in there, or Aquaman, because it looks like Aquaman might now be Lobo, or should I say freaking Jason Momoa. Again, more on this in a second. I understand the thought process there of not including Henry Cavill's extra scene in The Flash if you're actually not going to go and do anything with him in the DCU movies over the next several years. The thing that absolutely sucks about this is, imagine being Henry Cavill. After all this freaking time, again, we can't, it makes it sound like what I'm saying is absolute. We really don't know. But let's just hypothetically say that this is true. Imagine being him. You come back in Black Adam. You think, okay, you hear that Man of Steel 2. I mean, he would know more than us. Is being developed very early, you know, finding writers. You even film a video because you've probably had some assurances behind the scenes saying, I just wanted to make it official. I'm back as Superman. And then this, if this is true. But what's so important to note is none of the dust is truly settled, because, you know, this is, to be fair to the Hollywood Reporter, they do keep emphasizing, you know, formulating their new and still in flux plan. Like, it's really still in flux, like everything. So they go on to say, also unlikely is a sequel to Black Adam. Despite the hype surrounding the movie of launching a new corner of DC, a lot of it led by star Dwayne Johnson, the movie has only grossed $385 million worldwide, and insiders at the studio say the movie, which cost more than $190 million to produce, two sources peg the actual cost at $230 million, not including marketing, will be lucky to break even considering ancillary revenue. Even if the movie does eke out of minimal profit, any follow-ups inherent rising costs dim the prospect of a sequel. Johnson hoped to carve out his own piece of the DC pie, but multiple sources say his playing up of a returning Cavill and his own involvement with DC may not be endearing him to the new management. Johnson and Cavill are both managed by Danny Garcia, who is also Johnson's producing partner. The perception of Adam turning a profit or not is a conflagration now being waged in public, with Johnson tweeting the movie would net over $50 million after a Variety story said the movie would lose over $50 million theatrically. And we spoke about this yesterday, funnily enough. I did a news roundup video. Definitely go check it out if you've missed it. We get into all kinds of things from Star Wars, Robert Pattinson's new movie, all kinds of things. But I did say that no matter what you think of Black Adam, it didn't do a great job. It just didn't. Those are the facts. Like, even if it's trying to break even, and it might very well do so, especially with digital sales getting a bit of a splash of cash, it's just, it doesn't look great. I didn't rule off Black Adam at all, Dwayne Johnson playing Black Adam again in the future, but it's just, what I concluded is the easy conclusion, and that is, when you make a movie and you have this venture of hundreds of millions of dollars, you want to have a decent return. That didn't happen. So moving onwards to Momoa, meanwhile, could emerge as a pivotal figure into the new plans, according to several sources. In one scenario, and this is stuff we've kind of been hearing for the past month or so, the actor would wrap up his days as underwater hero Arthur Curry with Lost City, which would be the final movie release that was made by the previous regime, but it would not spell the end of the actor's involvement with DC, with sources saying the actor would lead another movie or franchise. The character of Lobo, a foul-mouthed, cigar-chomping intergalactic bounty hunter, has been mentioned in connection with Momoa, and we've been, you know, connecting those dots for the past month, and I basically believe this one. Whether or not Momoa does play everybody's favorite Bastic, Lobo emerging as a rising character early on in the conversation may point to the kinds of characters that the Gunn and Safran team may be focusing on. The character is an outsider, an anti-hero, and is keeping in line with Gunn's specialty of taking the offbeat and quirky and flipping it into a crowd-pleasing fare. Part of the plan could entail a truly fresh start and having no baggage from any previous regimes as they set about resetting how DC movies and shows are made. So basically total reboot, right? That, however, does not take into account the possible success of movies such as Shazam! Fury of the Gods, on which Safran is a producer, and Blue Beetle. Would that plan include forging ahead without the actors who inhabit those characters and recast them, even if those movies prove to be box office hits? That's the thing, right? Even if we have this total reboot, which does and has always seemed a plausible thing on the table, this is what I was thinking up until now. You would still have some actors in the role, right? Like Henry Cavill, I would have thought. And here, as they're pointing out, quite rightly so, what about Zachary Levi's Shazam? What about the success for that movie? Or Blue Beetle? If they are going for a full reboot, does that mean if we ever get a Blue Beetle in the next 8 to 10 years of that DCU plan from Peter Safran and James Gunn, would they be recast? Or would it be the same Blue Beetle in the Blue Beetle movie, the same Shazam? We don't know. This is the weird thing. But they go on to say observers are convinced the plan calls for an interconnected story universe, and there is rumblings of the establishment of a creative brain trust. The brain trust may be already rolling in some capacity, as sources say that Safran had in recent weeks been meeting with writers at his Los Angeles home in an effort to hone the presentation, gathering feedback and ideas for the plan. Again, maybe this is how little tidbits have come out to even be produced in an article like this. I don't know. One part that the Gunn Safran agenda seems likely not to touch This is what I've been saying this whole time. Even this is, I can imagine this being clipped. But again, as I've always said, I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong. But all I've said, like in my video, I do recommend checking out, will Robert Pattinson really be the Batman of the new DCU? This seems to be echoing my sentiments there. So one part that the Gunn Safran agenda seems likely not to touch, at least for now, so I'll give everyone that who thinks it could be, is Matt Reeves' Batman universe, in which Robert Pattinson dons the cowl of the Caped Crusader. Reeves is writing a sequel to the Batman. The filmmaker is also overseeing the launch of 2 Batman series that spin out of his movie, including The Penguin, but also technically, the Arkham Asylum show and the GCPD series has supposedly been revitalized. And I do believe this, no matter what some people are saying with this rumored potential massive reboot that we just got into a second ago, still maybe being on the table, that they could hinge it or like put the foundation structure of Matt Reeves' vision and world of at least what we saw in the first movie. I still intuitively, I'm not going to go on a whole random ramble about this. I've got a whole video dedicated to that. Do go check it out. But I can't imagine like characters like Lobo, and I'm not saying he's going to be like running around in Gotham, but if you're saying they're going to like build the foundation of their new DCU off of Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell's Penguin, Jeffrey Wright, Jim Gordon, and the connected DC universe with Lobo, the future castings of, a new Superman maybe, all of these new aliens and other characters, metahumans from that of the DC character Bible being in that same world. I'm telling you, Matt Reeves does not want that. He's said that so many times, and I'm just going to be gobsmacked if he changed his mind. So I do for now believe, as the Hollywood Reporter is saying here again, that it's going to be untouched, kind of like Joker 2. But those are going to be the only things likely that will be separate ever, at least in the next 8 to 10 years, because the main mojo for them is building up the connected universe, and that is the DC universe under DC Studios, even though obviously Joker 2, Folie à Deux, and the Batman are under the DC Studios brand. So here we are. That's the end of the article. And it's nuts. I am on Twitter quite a lot. Do follow me there. It'd be great to interact with you more. You get a lot of mix of opinions. People saying, oh, this is all rumors. Some people saying, no, do a total reboot. I love Henry Cavill. I actually would have loved to have seen him carry on. But at this point, there, some people just like, feck it. Like, just start again. Just start again. And let's get it mother-frickin' right this time. And who knows, that actually could be coming. Especially if they are deciding whether to keep Aquaman, right, in The Flash, and Superman in The Flash, when we have Momoa potentially playing a new role in Gunn and Safran's universe, which I do believe is Lobo. I think we all know that. So do they really want to put, Superman in there? So like that could be really true. Like, the Joker, the Batman are like staying gilded in their own little cage. But the new universe could be a reboot. And now we're hearing Wonder Woman 3 isn't going on. But maybe, as they say, it's still in flux. They might keep some actors on, which would contradict the theory of a complete reboot in a way of speaking. Because if you have Gal Gadot, even with, tone changes, like kind of like Crisis, right? Or Flashpoint. Things are just a little bit different. Hey, you've got the same face. You largely act the same, but you're in a new direction, right? Because of some universal timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly thing. Same with Henry Cavill. So that still remains to be seen. Nothing's been finalized yet, even though apparently we know that Wonder Woman 3 has been turned down in its current state. It's dead in its current incarnation. So the more you hear about this, the more it does seem like they kind of want to, carry on with a mostly refitted universe. But I still think that might not be strictly true, because there is some other things on the table. Look at Peacemaker. I'm telling you now, James Gunn is going to make a Peacemaker season 2. We know that. That was pre-Flashpoint. We know that. So with that being said, if he kept Peacemaker in a new DC universe and didn't keep any of the other actors, then that would be kind of a big double standard, don't you think? Being like, okay, whole new DC rebooted universe, no previous actors, other than John Cena and Vigilante and Harcourt and everyone else is still here. Do you see what I mean? So maybe that would give some of you a little bit of a glimpse of hope that I think we can pretty much trust that John Cena is coming back for Peacemaker Season 2 at some point in the next, let's just say, couple of years. So you know, yeah, Wonder Woman 3 may be dead in its current incarnation, but Gal Gadot might be talking to James Gunn in the next year, saying, hey, yeah, we still want you in. We might not have you in right away. Same, hopefully, with Cavill. But yeah, man, it's most certainly interesting. What I will say about the is this report plausible? Again, I'm no major trade shill at all, but going back to what I said about a major trade putting out a piece like this, founded on absolutely bullshit, like absolutely nothing being true, I find hard to believe. So that's the interesting factor. I think a modicum of truth lies somewhere in this. It doesn't sound like a stretch, far stretch of the imagination to believe that, okay, like anything like this that we've read today sounds realistic. Like it could go down this way. But we'll have to wait and see. And as I'm checking on Twitter right now, or you probably see me looking at my other screen, James Gunn still hasn't replied to this. He has normally replied sooner to things like this, which is interesting. Silence also speaks volumes, but knowing me, knowing my luck, there's going to be another update that I would have included right now if he would have quote tweeted it or just saying, I know you guys are hearing so. I think it's going to be ambiguous what he posts. I expect him to say something, if at all he says anything. I know there's things floating out there that you guys may be hearing. Just trust that Peter Safran and I are the people who truly know what's going on. So that might be addressing it in a way that maybe some of it's true, but the people who know all the cards is us, and just know that it's in good hands or something like that, or what we're going to do is create the best DC universe we can. So it would be like a vague kind of statement, because if he addresses too many specific things, then there's outright confirmations and all kinds of reactions from fans about, oh, no Wonder Woman 3, oh, Aquaman's doing this, no Superman, what are you doing, blah, blah, blah. Do you see what I mean? So that's my prediction. If a James Gunn thing's already dropped, those are my thoughts on it. If it sounded anything like that, if he tweeted anything out like that. And I think that wraps up my thoughts. Again, the way I'm going to leave this video off is we're just going to have to wait and see. That's all we can do. But I do believe it's kind of like when you're walking down the road and there's restaurants nearby and you're starting to get a smell of something. So, oh, okay, I don't exactly know what they're cooking, but I'm starting to pick up on the trail. I think that's where we're at right now. Weird ass analogy, but that's where we're at, I think. So let me know your thoughts on all of this. How do you feel about, fair enough, maybe you knew that Momoa was likely to be Lobo, but what do you think of the Superman Henry Cavill situation? Do you believe it's about the kind of crossing streams at the same time with two different directions? Wonder Woman 3, maybe a potential full reboot, but then what about Peacemaker still being John Cena? Insanely likely to happen. All of that, guys. I'm going to stay on top of this. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because, I've already delayed Doom Patrol and my review for that. So when stuff like this drops, I'm going to be on top of it. Like the video if you got this far. Would really appreciate that. Helps the video out a ton. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you people of the new DCU in the next video. Goodbye.